Alright, good morning everybody. If I sound like I just woke up, well, it's because I did. It's 6 a.m. here in LA. Bright and early. Not going to show my face today, because it's too damn early. So, we left off
Tuesday.
Oh, you like my mouth on your mushrooms, don't you?
If you don't have a date, love the one you're with.
Or you brought a friend? Oh, she just likes to watch?
Undateable, Tuesday after The Voice on NBC.
One sec. There's like an audio lag here. Or for some reason the audio is still playing on my thing. Yes, good morning. So, adding faces, adding hands, just starting to look at a little bit of detail and whatnot. Pretty quickly here I'm going to go back into Max just to start to assess things and throw in some lighting and look at, you know, what we've got. Now when I do that, I'm going to need some lighting. Obviously there are lots of free HDRIs out there, and the other thing we can always do is use a V-Ray Sun. So just real quick, if you haven't seen these, these are some good resources that you should consider, keeping with free. So here we've got the no emotion HDRs. These are all free for you to use. So I would recommend having a look through here if you're looking for HDRs, as well as, you know, there's lots of paid resources and whatnot, so you can check those out. But I'd like to present some, you know, or use free material as much as I can. So this is a great place to start if you haven't been here. You can come here to hdrmaps.com, and under the freebie section, if you start scrolling down, you'll see like there's a pack that you can buy, or you can scroll down and you can download any one of these, add them to your basket, and download them. So I also, you know, would like to open up the forum to questions and whatnot if anybody has any. Obviously my head is slowly getting into the game here, so if you have questions that you would like to ask before I get going, please do. As all Friday mornings, this will be a shorter session than the other, simply because I've got to get things going in the morning. So yes, wow. Wake up, Chad. The only day I can watch yeah, the time difference. So quickly though, with those HDRIs, I do want to show you something. So this is Fusion. Obviously I use Fusion and Nuke. Fusion, however, is free. If you can go and download it. Magic Fusion. If you go to their website, if you haven't seen this, right here, download. So you can download their latest version for free and use it for free. Nuke is great and all, and it's got the PLE, and that's cool, but, you know, it watermarks it, and also, you know, you've got some limited functionality and whatnot. So give it a try, Fusion that is. And I just wanted to show you guys the difference between, this is a no emotion HDR, and over here on the right, this is a Peter Guthrie HDRI. So these are frequently my go-tos when I'm in the studio. You know, I think I've been using these for as long as he's been making them, because he's kind of got the system down pat. But when you're using them, you definitely have to keep a couple of things in mind, and one of them is this. And this is really the biggest difference between these. So there's if you look down here, you're gonna see it pop up, and you're gonna see the RGB values of the image that I'm you know, hovering over. So you'll see that red 557, green 231, so on and so forth. So these values, this is the exposure level basically, and the intensity of your sun ball. So this guy has a ton of range. So if we start coming down here, you can see, like, here is my sun, and now I've gained it down. But this guy is going to really give some nice shadows and have a lot of range to work with. Okay, I see there's a question. I'll be right to it. This guy over here, you can see that his red, green, blue values, so down here over that sun ball, are at you know, 4.5, 4.5, and 4.5. So this, you know, even clamped, we're still looking 11, 28. I just saw 69. This guy's got a lot more intensity. This guy does not. Now, if you know what you're doing, and I'll kind of go over that, you can still get some range out of this, but it's never going to give you what this guy can give. But this one you always also have to tweak pretty heavily in the HDRI loader. Not heavily, it's just you need to mess with the intensity so your scene just isn't blown out. Or, you know, use exposure in a V-Ray camera and then still probably mess with the intensity. I generally don't use exposure in V-Ray cameras, simply because things like bullet time, if you are using exposure and then you need to change your frame rate, your lighting has now gone completely bunk. So the question, what are the maximum size of the image you can input in Fusion? I'm not aware of a maximum. I think that it's, I don't know, I haven't hit that. You can maybe look on the website and see if there's something like that, but that's none that I know of. These guys are both pretty big. I don't even know what I'm... where's the thing? Where'd it go? Oh, fuck it. Yeah. None that I know of. Okay, so that said, let's start this. Yeah, and you know, not to discredit one compositing app over the other, it's just free is pretty awesome. It's 2 a.m. Why do you hate me? Wow. That's thank you for your support. Sorry, Adam. Alright, so clay tubes. Although I think that I'm going to come up. Alright. I'm just going to grab a standard brush for a second. And bring this guy way down. I don't know why. It always does this to me. No lazy mouse. Nice mouth. That is the most amazing mouth you've ever seen. Like, that's super fucked up. And remember, you know, these guys are going to be like covered in bark and all sorts of stuff. It's not, I'm not like a character sculptor by any stretch of the imagination. And you can tell by that mouth over there. Nope. What's it doing? Oh, I'm redynameshing. Awesome. Oops. You're working for a 10K pixel wide image for print purpose. Some compositing software sometimes have a hard time dealing with them. So on your end, would you stick with Photoshop? No. You know, one thing, the you know, if you are working with a 10K print image or something like that, make sure that you're rendering out scanline zips if you want to use that inside of Nuke. You know, some people, I think, are working and they're thinking that it's the compositing app that's having the problem, and you know, it is, but it's important how you write out your data when you're working with some of these compositing packages. So no, that would be the one thing. I don't know. I've not tried Fusion at 10K. I have done Nuke at 10K, and as long as your scanline and you know, kind of obeying what it wants, you should be fine. Yeah, in the you know, I come from like an automotive background, and at one point we were doing a lot of print. I'll make him behave soon enough. Not so much, you know, not so much recently, but back then, yeah, it was a lot of large format stuff, and we were always, I mean, I would always use Nuke. But, I mean, toward the end, sometimes it's just a little faster to go inside and use Photoshop. Not at all to, you know, discredit it or say, like, no, you shouldn't use it. I think, you know, whatever you're most comfortable with is what you should use. And, you know, Photoshop can certainly bang out some good stuff very fast. Just bringing down the intensity of this brush. I just want to exaggerate some of these features a little bit. I know it's like, what the hell are you doing to these faces, Chad? And, you know, they're kind of scary, possessed wood faces, so it's not so important that they are completely anatomically correct. Once the bark, I don't like what I did though. Once there's bark and stuff all over them, it's going to change quite a bit. Let's get a move. He's smiling. Nice. Really, I think I want something more like that. Kind of messed this guy up over here. Maybe build up around that guy a little bit. And I thought we were going to learn some anatomy in here. No. Guy is jacked over here. He's pissed. Why did you do this to me? Oops. Alright. Way too small a detail. Nope. I just fucked up his mouth. Nope. I kind of pinched this down. I need to fix that. Inflate. It's not pretty necessarily. Yet. And inflate. Just smoothing this out. Kind of messed his mouth up. Turn on back face mask, yes. Well, I need to get it to open up a little bit. And yeah, then I'll do that. When you're working on like a thin object like this, you go masking, auto masking, and mask, where to go? Back face mask. So this will help to try to not get the back faces when you're working, you know, from like over here. So now it's not getting that shit. And move. I just want enough of like a cavity in there that I can put lights and other stuff once the time comes. What are these emojis? I don't even. There's some interesting emojis in the chat window. Can I even say that? I think I'm too old to say that. Emojis. I thought we were supposed to use our secret cool usernames. Alright. So I just want to look at this base a little bit here. And then I'm going to take this and bring it back into max for a minute, and then come back again, just to assess, like, you know, you don't want to work in a vacuum, especially when you're in ZBrush, and kind of like you can end up spending a lot of time in here that really isn't warranted. That's the biggest. That's one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you, especially in ZBrush, is don't get like caught in the ZBrush trap, which is just like worrying about all these little details and sculpting all this stuff, and you're like, oh man, it's so cool, and then you've sculpted away your deadline, and you've got, you know, nothing much to show. So don't do that. Really, you know, be mindful of what you're doing while you're sculpting. And, no. Let's see if I can get this guy to stop doing that. And brush. Oh God! All right, it is on already. I just want these like contact areas a little bit beefier. When you have supervisor review these, do you guys typically render stuff out of Max or screenshot? Render out of Max. Yeah, that's as much as we can render out of Max. Sometimes our effects reviews will be like play blasted as we're like working on something, but as quick as we can, we'd like to get into rendering. GrowFX doesn't have an option to automatically model faces of a tree trunk. To automatically model faces. Not sure. What do you mean? I mean, it did the base tree trunk that we've brought in here. I'm not sure I understand the question. Okay, so I'm just gonna save this as. Faces equal human head. No, it doesn't. No, and adding like these details and kind of, you know, from the original guy, you know, a lot of this like stuff that I'm doing here, it's not really merge human figure part with the trunk. Yeah, it's this would all be pretty painful. You could probably do it with a bunch of splines or something. Oh, sorry. It was a joke. Humor is lost on me at the moment. Alright, so I'm going to bring this down a couple of subdivisions. Yeah, and that's fine. And export this guy. So it's not decimated. So I'm going to make a new folder. And very creatively from ZBrush. And yes, sure. Export this guy out. Right now he's got no UVs. He's got, you know, it's pretty much useless. But it's important to, like I said, you know, take inventory of what you've done. And the best way to do that is to bring it into your scene, throw in a light, and see what you got. So, six, and from ZBrush. Oh, so I left on a group thing. I'll fix that. So this is one of the reasons why, you know, bring it in, see what you got. I exported that wrong. If you come under export, you don't want these groups. Right now, if I look at this guy here, you can see like all of my insert brushes, they're separate groups. And I can fix that. And you might want that. It's, you know, one thing to consider when you're when you're painting this, you can always like auto mask by group. So you can come in and you can mask by polygroups here. If you turn this up to 100 and you start like sculpting, it's only going to sculpt the group that I clicked on, right? You can see like this is now starting to like pull this stuff out here. So it's avoiding that polygroup. That's a cool feature. But in this case, I don't need groups yet. I am going to use them, or I'm going to kind of use visibility and whatnot to UV this guy, but I don't really need the groups. So I can come into polygroups and group visible. Now I've got all one group. And you can make groups all the time in lots of fun little ways. So yeah, you can see like this brought them in. Is it one object or yeah, multiple objects, which I don't really want that. Place the revolt. Why is Moobot saying that? Alright, so now in this case, I don't need to, get rid of smoothing groups or anything. I haven't decimated this guy. I am just going to throw a gray shader on it. My material browser will come up. It's so fast. Have a sip of coffee, attempt to wake up. Oh, come on. Alright. Come on. And just a gray shader. And alright, and I'm going to make a new layer. Rename this guy. Call him lighting. Put my tab down. And make a new group. This guy come up above, say apply. Alright. So at the moment, this main layer, I've got these two guys in there, and I'll end up moving them as we progress. So I'm just gonna get an HDRI, or first create a light. It's important. And I could do this with a sun. No, I don't want that light. I want a dome light. Alright. And I'm going to use texture. V-Ray HDRI. And then drag this guy over to my material browser. An instance. Right. Then I'm going to go grab that HDRI. So this is the one I have in Fusion. It's this guy. So this is from NoahMotion .net, or right? It's .net, .net.com. Yes. And wait for it to load. All right. So mapping type, I want to be spherical. And I'm going to mess with the gamma on this guy. Now this is an instance where I'm going to mess with gamma because to taste, to tweak the light and whatnot. It nothing to do with like setting this guy in proper color space or anything like that. It's all about getting out of the light what I want to get out of it. So, you know, that's important to consider. Alright, multiplier of 1, all good. I want it invisible. Well, yeah, I do want it invisible. Alright, and let's real quick go into my V-Ray settings, just because I think this is all just running default at the moment. This, like, advanced basic stuff that they've done. Low priority, yes. Alright, and I always render with render elements, so I'm just going to go ahead and add the ones that I like, or not the ones that I like, the ones that you need. Right, so diffuse filter, global illumination, lighting, and reflection. There, at the moment, there is no refraction, but I'm still going to add it, and really there's probably no reflection either. And sample info, well, I'm not gonna, we are gonna do sample rate though. Sample rate, normals, and specular. So these are kind of like bare minimum guys. I'm not gonna add depth yet. It's not super important, but once you start getting into like tweaking your rendering and you know, tuning and getting the speed kind of in order, you're going to want these render elements so you can assess your shaders and lighting and samples and whatnot. Not just kind of off the top of your head, but visually, and see where your noise is and whatnot. So they can be, yes, those HDRIs can be used commercially. Their licensing is as such. Okay, the other thing I want is quick render. So quick render, bring up this little guy. So why use this, right? So as I had said before, you know, it's nice because you can get this guy all dialed in, and let's say like I knew I was going to need 32 samples here, and that I was going to have a noise threshold of 0.07. I'm just throwing out, like, these are random numbers that people use sometimes. And I don't know that I want my shade rate set to 2 at the moment. I do not want Reinhard. Fucker. And yes, color mapping only. No gamma. I do want a subpixel. And I'm going to clamp at 10. Alright. So let's say I had all of this dialed in, and that's what I want, you know, to kind of go with. And I had depth of field on and motion blur, all these things. This is nice because I can come in, and at the moment my resolution is set to 1920 by 1080, but I'm just doing test renders. So I can turn, you know, displacement off, and you can go and do this, you know, here, right? We can go into the global settings and we can check displacement. But then you've got this guy dialed in for, you know, for your final render. it would suck that if you forgot that you checked something and then you went to submit it and it wasn't correct. So quick render allows you to just kind of tweak and mess with stuff non-destructively. It doesn't change anything here, but if I now say, okay, displacement off, motion blur off, depth of field off, 50% render, and it's going to apply a noise threshold of 0.03, I can say render and it's going to give me this. So not much to look at yet, but what's nice is now I've got a 960 by 540 frame buffer and a very speedy render, all not messing with anything over here. So, and there are lots of settings. You can override your samples, you can do all sorts of stuff in here, so you can actually like dial in what would be your final render but it doesn't ultimately mess with your stuff, and it gives you the V-Ray frame buffer and you have all your channels, so we can see our lighting, GI, all that stuff. And do I have GI turned on? No. And I'm going to use brute force and light cache. And filter used for glossy rays. Alright. I remember when Tim Jones made his DVD for Noman Workshop, he mentioned to properly comp in Fusion Nuke, it's best to leave color mapping to linear. I presume it's part of Blur's workflow as well. Oh, you're saying in the render guy here? Here, this linear multiply? Is this the one you're talking about? Yeah, that's an old one. I remember that. But we actually we've done shows where we were using the Reinhardt. I mean, it's really just an exposure thing. It's not going to, I don't know, I haven't seen it really mess up anything in a comp, but you know, you do need to bear it in mind if you're working with this with Reinhardt. You know, you're going to get, things are going to be a lot like darker and crushed and whatnot. So I prefer to work this way, and if I am going to apply that type of look, then I do it in post. I control it there, but I like things to be a little bit more smooth. It's kind of, that's one of the things where it's like supervisor's prerogative a little bit. Right, just cranking the multiplier on this guy. So because, you know, its value, where can you find quick render? Oh, so this is part of the Blur dev tools. So if you see me like launch this guy, this tree grunt guy, that's because I've installed Blur dev tools. And you can, if you are on my YouTube, there's a video here, Blur development tools introduction. So you can go here, watch this video. It'll walk you through, like, you know, getting the right version of Python, where you can download the dev tools, all that stuff. Okay, so because, you know, we're looking at like 5 is the highest, it's required, what is Python 2.7 before they install it? Yes, yeah, 2.7. That's what we're currently running, and it does not support Max 2015. We are Max 2014 at Blur, and just thus, so is our tool set. So if you are using Max 2015, it's not going to work. Alright, so again, cranking this multiplier, and as you start to bring this up, you're also going to want to tweak the gamma. It's going to bring some of the contrast back into this and help to make it a little punchier. Yes, thank you for the link. And yeah, this guy over here, he is jacked. This one's looking okay. What was I gonna do? Wake up! Oh yeah, I remember what I was gonna do. I just want to make it non-invisible. Okay. So one thing, a new feature is, I don't know that, well, let's make it a full, where's the lock to rotation? Oh, am I using, oh yeah, here we go. Lock to dome orientation. So it used to be that if you rotated the V-Ray dome, that wouldn't do anything. Now though, if you want to rotate this map, you can rotate the dome and it will automatically update. I actually prefer to do it in here though, just because I don't know. I just do it in here. It's not really, there's no like amazing explanation to why. So I'm just gonna rotate this guy. Let's do a full 180. Okay. So right now I'm kind of just messing with, you know, the orientation and whatnot with this light. And if you start messing with the gamma too much, you kind of wrench on it, you're going to end up with like very saturated values. And you can, you know, pump this through a color correct node. That's one thing. The other is just like don't really like crank it down too much, or you start to get some pretty crazy values. So I'm just kind of looking at what in different lighting, what's kind of standing out, what's not. This is not really like I'm working on my lighting yet. I just want to know like what features are working, what features aren't. So like this guy needs some love, and you know, ultimately you need to sculpt up a little bit beyond what you think you know, you need inside of ZBrush. It's like it's looking good to you there, but once you start to add lighting and things like that, you see like, you know, things aren't quite doing what you're wanting. So this is maybe getting there. You know, and a lot of it's just going to depend on where the light's coming from. But yeah, I mean, this is like, if these were in English a little bit more exaggerated, that's definitely going to help. So going back, and geometry. Did I kink some faces right there? Looks like at the lower res. Grab my tablet. Yeah. They were just like some jacked up. Or is that actually a root popping through? Might be a root. Or jacked faces. Either way, I don't want it. Alright, so let's what to do with you, buddy. Alright, so you've gone Coco Loco. I have fucked you up. Ah. Now he's getting all jacked. Just smooth you out a little bit. Rebuild you up. Alright. Come back to you in a minute. He's muted. Alright, so this detail was starting to be like okay, but it needed more. So I'm just gonna build this guy up. And right now I'm working at a lower subdivision. It's important not to always, you know, work at your highest subdivision. Especially just for like random build up and whatnot. You know, keep your higher subdivs for the detail. This I want this guy to read more. It's like it's kind of like arm coming down or something. And this will be a cool spot to like put some other roots and some kind of ivy and whatnot around, which will be nice. Not laughing at my sculpting. I don't know, maybe I should. You know, I'm just kind of defining some of these areas a little bit more. So they've got a little bit more shape, and here it might look like, you know, I've slightly gone too far, but I assure you I have not. Yeah. Nope. Don't want to do that. And this is some stuff I might want to do at a higher subdivision. But I can start to kind of mock it in here. Okay. I just want to give them like a little bit of a transition, and just gonna start here, and then I'll kind of move it back to or go up to a higher subdivision and add some of those like little details. And I think I'm gonna slightly move that arm. Well, let's see if it'll. This is where not blowing away your polygroups is helpful. I can also mask this guy off and then use like a transpose. Let's see. It's really just in this like shoulder area that I'm not totally digging. Just get this to pop over a little bit. Just opening up his chest area a little bit. Thank you. Let's flip around. Nope, I need a slightly larger brush. And I kind of like, you know, the clay tubes will help to give me some of these like angles on these arms. Just those little details will look cool. Hopefully. Be mindful of like where things are going, where they're coming from. So I want to make sure that I've got like a nice little kind of overlapping there. Kind of build up on this guy. Getting a little janky stuff in there. That's good. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Yeah. Kind of stretching these guys a little bit. And this guy, I've really fucked up his face. Bring him back. Just kind of looking at him from all angles here at this point. Just to get it to pop back out a little bit. Nothing too crazy. Push some stuff around a little bit. I didn't mean to tweak his nose. Didn't mean to give him a nose job. I kind of want them each to kind of have their own, like, look about them. And because we're in ZBrush, what? No. I don't want to go Z. Did I accidentally? God damn it. No! No! What the fuck? Don't! Alright. And I'm gonna go up a subdivision level. Right, and we can see like all the like little details. Well, not too much. Just kind of smoothed stuff a little bit, which is good. Let's go up more. Oh, no. I accidentally just hit the delete lower button, which I did not want to do. Just curious. Because I had, like, at this subdivision level, I had sculpted, and you can see it's kind of applying some of that stuff there. So... one of the people in on the chat right now is talking about looking at everybody else's cool work on the web. I don't know. It's always important to remember or to consider how much. I mean, when it's personal stuff, personal projects are always the best. I think like that's the stuff I like. I really dig seeing. But company work is, well, it's done with the company. And it lacks some of the impressiveness, I think. Just like, don't like this area over here. I don't know what the hell I did over here. He's got like some mangly goatee from one of the subdivision levels. Really, I kind of fucked this face up. I might throw him, insert brush him again, because I don't care. We'll see. We'll see if I can salvage it. Kind of got like a face mask. Where'd he go? He's hiding. Everyone is so quiet. I certainly am. I'm like barely awake. Oops. But yes, everybody is always so quiet. You forget it took me months. So one of the guys in the chat, it took months before he was a chatty little Kathy. He was in a previous class of mine. Or dev tools are stable, or do they crash maps a lot? That's a really good question. It kind of depends on your install. That's the best thing I can tell you. They can be crashy, but it's like it's really a crapshoot. You might have really good luck and it might be great. You might not though, and it might royally suck. But when they're good, they're good. And then also, like, some tools might work for you and others might not. That's where it's like, you know, I can only use the old Onion. I can't use the new one. Oh, what happened? Why are we offline? Some reason we went offline. Or nope, it's oh, okay, maybe we're not offline. I think it's a commercial break or something. Apparently. No, it says I just went offline. What the hell? It says I'm online here. Oh, wait a minute. Frames encoded dropped.